Hi everybody, I hope you're having a lovely day. I know things are pretty crazy in the world right now, but let's look at some interesting stuff and get our minds off of the turmoil that we see playing out in every TV. And what I want to take you to is what you're looking at there. If you didn't know that this was a picture of the mountains in Arizona, what would you guys think you'd be looking at? What do you think this is? What does it look like? What does it remind you of? We know these are mountains, right? This is not, or at least what they're saying. They're not saying this is trees. They're saying this is mountains. I'm saying, I think it's trees. I think it's petrified trees. And I believe this is a petrified tree, broken off. What do you think about this one? Can you think of it as being anything but? You can even see the round. You can see where it was decayed out, and now you still got the roundness of where the tree was on the inside. Is there any doubt that this was like 3 trees together and that was cut down? And you can see where the blades, whatever chopped this down, it's just like a tree does. Comes down, and then you get that slope of dirt that goes around the roots. And yet, this is not a tree stump. And these are not supposed to be tree stumps either. None of them are. They're all supposed to be mountains, because mountains, for some reason, grow that way. Do you believe that? Do you believe that everything that we're looking at here is just mountains that grow that way? Tectonic plates moving together and pushing it and making mountains grow? Is that what you believe? Could be. This is the petrified forest. They know, they actually tell you, yep, that one is. Yep, that is exactly what you see there. But so is that. You know, sometimes you don't want to believe what you're seeing, but sometimes it's time to start looking and believing what you're seeing. Petrified wood. How does wood, this must have happened billions and millions of years ago if you were listening to the scientists. Well, I want to show you a little story and see whether you think that after this. Mother Shipton's Cave. Have you guys ever heard about Mother Shipton's Cave? Though this is a really interesting cave, actually. Here, let's get a picture here. They say that it looks like a skull, and it sure does. But this cave that you're looking at drips mineral water. And they have made this sort of amusement park around it where they hang things. They hang things up, and this is what happens to the things that they hang in a very short time. And they've, like I said, made this into an amusement park. And they put teddy bears and masks and whatever. they do a lot of teddy bears because they sell them in their shop. And within 6 months, everything that hangs in this cave turns to solid stone. It's mineralized now. It's not what it was before. So they're actually fossilizing inanimate objects into rock in a short period of time. Here's another picture of the cave where they'll put in things like this, and voila, we've got stone statues of a lot of things. So if you go back to look at the mountains, so when you start looking at the mountains, you can see that things can turn solid wood, or fabric for that matter, can turn to stone within months. Something like this won't necessarily take millions of years to turn wood into it. I stumbled across this after I made my last one on statues and the different techniques that they must have had in technology to be able to make the statues, where I believe that some of them had to have been 3D printed. But I want to look at some of the architecture around that time that is actually just littered, especially in Europe. This is all made out of wood. What you're looking at here is all hand-carven wood throughout this whole beautiful, beautiful thing. I mean, when you're looking at it, we know even today there's people that can do this kind of woodwork. So look at that. I'd like to go in closer, but I don't know if it's going to show very good. All the details. And we've all seen, if we've not been in them, we've seen them on the movies. Solid wood, beautiful carvings all over the world. Stunningly gorgeous, high ceilings, and it's all made out of wood. I mean, there is some stone in this building, but it's made out of wood. And so are these buildings that you're looking at. They're all made out of wood. Look at this one here. That may be. And so is this magnificent statue. Statues made out of wood. Carved, hand-carved out of wood. So let me show you what like I said, I saw this recently, and it's really changed my understanding of what we're actually seeing a little bit better anyways, of what we're seeing around us. And of course, I didn't come up with this brilliant idea, and I don't know if it is a brilliant idea, but it clicked with me. I went on the search after seeing Autodidactic talk about this after I put out my last video on statues and petrification and possible techniques and new technology. But then I started looking and going on a search and started finding some pretty interesting stuff and started looking at the world a little different. Now, this is all about mud floods, guys, right? And mud floods. We know petrification can happen really quickly, and it can happen in a matter of months. We know that we've had the mud floods where houses are being smashed with mud, or even maybe that what we're looking at when we're looking at buildings like this that are solid stone, could it possibly be that they were underwater, mineralized water for, I don't know, a few years? Undisturbed water that didn't ruin it, that just quickly formed them into solid stone? Because if you look at some of these carvings that are solid stone, they just very easily could have been carved out of wood. But to make something of that magnitude without cracking, without breaking, and then having to start all over is an impossibility with stone, unless they're casting this. But it makes more sense. At least in my mind, it makes more sense. It makes more sense to me that this picture, what you're seeing there, may be an elephant and a wooden structure that sat under mineralized water. We do know of Noah's time, where the whole earth was supposed to be submerged, where the tops of the mountains were covered. So even though these buildings are extremely large, could it have been that they were wooden structures that was carved? That makes a much clearer answer to what you're seeing there. At least it does to me. Seeing all of this, take a look. Like, how can you do this with stone? But you can do that with wood. Wood is pliable. Wood is forgiving. And the pillars, you could see these being one solid tree trunk, and we showed you the trees. There was an abundance of trees there at that time. Abundance of trees that got knocked down, but there probably wasn't an abundance of rock. But that's what we're seeing. All of this has been mineralized. I believe it is mineralized trees. Organic material that you're looking at now. Just think about how much easier it would have been to do these things. When carving concrete rope, right? Concrete rope. Could it have been rope braided? See, something like this, which we were looking at, so please go back to the one that I put out on statues and that. It's a different technique. We're looking at something that is artificial, something that is different. These things that we were looking at last week are not. This is a technology, but is this? Or is this petrification in its finest? Did they make this out of one solid piece of this whole staircase? And you see, they've done joints. That makes sense if it was wood. All of the way you're seeing it, the way it's putting together, makes sense if all of this was wood. So let's now look at some of the other buildings that are solid, like St. Patrick's Cathedral. Look at this. Does that look more like you would make that out of wood? It'd be easier than all of this. Look at some of these other ones. Look at them. They're all stone. All supposed to be stone. Well, it is stone. It's not supposed to be stone. I'm giving you a different idea of what it could be. Here's some artificial again, some more of the artificial petrifications. Except for this one. This one's supposed to be a mystery that they found somewhere. I would say that comes from the technology, from the civilization, and the wording is different because they didn't speak English. But this is a cell phone. This is another one of the ones, if you go back to my lost technology, they had all of this. And this is something that is now, they found in stone. But these other ones, like this and this, these and that, they actually did this. There's a company that will make petrified to make it look, to fake it out for you. But this one wasn't. This one was an actual real artifact. So when you're looking at, especially like the carvings on some of these temples and buildings and stuff, you get things like this. I suppose they could be, but there's so much wood grain you can actually see right in it. You know? Now I'm saying this is still a tremendous amount of work to be able to do something like that. And I'm not saying that's all the statues, but there sure is a great deal of them. Yeah, that one looks like it's iron, some type of metal. And iron can be turned into rock as well, but that's for another video. So when you're looking at all of these monuments and temples, and even in America and Canada, we've got all of these buildings. Now, I'm not saying all of them are, but some of these ancient ones, I am suspecting they were. Like this guy. How he turned to stone. Your guess is as good as mine. Was this a statue of a giant that wore away? Or was this a giant? Because there's incredible amount of petrification that looks like real things, real beings, all over the world. So this isn't just in one place, but we've got to account for the large size of the buildings and how large we are. Obviously, these people that inhabited these buildings were not us. Because look at the size. Is this necessary for us? Do we need to do that? Do we even know how to do this? Honestly, people, do we know how to do this right now? And do we know how to do it in stone? Can we do this in stone? Can we do the type of magnificent structures that they had back then? And if we can, why aren't we still? Why aren't we doing this? If we know how to do this. Why aren't we doing this? And could all of this been submersed underwater? Took wood structures out of the plentiful wood that was all over the place and petrified it. What do you guys think? Is this like the silliest thing you've ever heard, or is this something to ponder? Could we be looking at the civilization? And this is where I'm starting to think. This is civilization before Noah's day. They were immersed and flooded. In it, the water stayed in some areas for probably a few hundred years, perfectly preserving the ancient world of pre-flood. But there's also some other buildings I want you to look at. Have you guys ever looked into earthen homes? Sandbag homes, or whatever you want to call it? It's basically the technique that they did in Mexico. It's kind of that where you are filling these bags and you're putting them layer on. You'll use some of them, use some wood to balance it out in different places, but you're able to be extremely creative with an earthen home. You can bend it and make structures just very malleable, as you see in there. Just the earthen homes. Okay. So now that we're looking at earthen homes, I want to show you some other ones that we look at. And we're wondering how they moved all of those giant bricks. So what do you think? Lost City of the Andes? Could they have been using like earthen home technology, like that basis? Look at these. Like they're molded. See how they're molded in, like what we saw in the rounded corners? How they can do different designs in different shapes, so they could get all funky with it. And even some of them, you will see that they can even look like this. But I would say, chances are these were still blocks of wood. I mean, some of this stuff, they say that they had to go over to a quarry, that halfway across the world, and how could they have gotten it from, because that's the only quarry that was close enough that made this kind of stone. But if you go to the flood story and you go to that narrative and you think about the technology that we have today, and I'm sorry, this is not coming in very clear, technology that we have today with earthen homes. Can you see? Maybe this is like a whole big old sand castle, guys, that was petrified. And so now we think that they were quarrying stone and they were doing this. I'm not saying they didn't have quarries back then, because they certainly did. But is that what we're looking at? Is that what we're looking at, guys? See, look at these in this one. This is an interesting one. I could see this would be the wood structure, the wood beams that they put to hold in this. Like they do with earthen homes. See? Look at that, guys. And then remember, we're looking at giants here. We're looking at people that probably were so large they were carrying this themselves. And look, this is even done in many different, there's many different parts to it. So what do you think? Earthen homes or giant boulders? My theory, working theory, because that's all I got right now. That's all I got is a working theory. This is pre-Adamite, because the Bible does talk about two creation stories. There were the ones that were the Titans of old. There was a time on this earth when we would have had monstrous sizes of beings. And this was from that first Earth age, where you've got these crazy size buildings and crazy size blocks that out even size the other ones that I'm saying are petrification. But could this, a lot of this, maybe not all of it, but a lot of it, be earthen? Petrification. Just a different way of looking at things. So when you're looking at these things, could they be, a lot of them, wooden structures that was immersed in the flood of Noah's day? Because that's the one that I'm actually starting to believe. I thought that maybe this was an after Noah flood. But I'm starting to suspect that my original thought that this is the builders of Noah's time, of the time pre-flood Noah's time. And maybe this didn't happen as long ago as we think. I mean, that's a whole other getting into subject that is quite big, and a lot of people have gone into it, and maybe I will tackle it, but the missing 1,000 years, the time period. We know we're not in the time period. It's pretty easy when you start looking around. They have the Dark Ages. They say 1,000 years where nothing came out, no writings came out, no art, no buildings, no nothing. And prior to that, they were doing this, and then we had the Dark Ages. Could it be that there was no Dark Ages? Could it be that we are much closer to the time when the earth was flooded? I mean, it's all theories. It's all theories. Because I did say, did we miss the millennium? I had that one picture and thinking that maybe all of this was from the reign of Jesus Christ. But maybe not. I mean, everything's on the table. It really has to be. You have to have room to explore, or else you can't learn anything new. If you think that you're going to be stubborn whenever you come up to that wall and it says, I'm not going to look there anymore because that's blasphemy. And then you're stopping yourself from discovering what the truth is and what the possibility of our earth and where we are. You know, we're being deceived. You know, our history is nothing like what we've been told. But are we looking at even our time frame is different? And that's why we can have buildings that are still fully intact, that are made out of stone, and that we're still living amongst them. Who would have thought that? Or the pre-Adamites, the builders that made these things. And now we name them something else. Because at one time, when this happened, I would imagine it was the same time that this happened. The trees went with these guys. But after that, this was the time before Noah. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe the millennium did happen and they built all this in stone. I mean, it's all theories, really. History is a theory. We know the history that we've been told is not the truth. But to piece together what is the truth now, that's a little harder. But you got to use your cognitive thinking. You have to be able to say, I'm willing to look and I'm willing to explore. Now, I'm not making any assumptions one way or another. I'm just presenting you guys with the information as it is presented. I'm just trying to be honest with what I am finding and what I am seeing. And it's up to you what you believe, or whether you want to take this or contemplate about what we are seeing around us and what the possibility is. I still know that Jesus Christ came. I mean, I'm not going past that point because, he did. But when did he come? How long ago was it? Is it really 2,000 years ago that this happened? We look at the pictures, the Renaissance pictures of Jesus Christ. And I don't even like using that name anymore, to be honest. I don't. Because we know that's not even his name. But he's living amongst ruins in all of the art. They're living in a post-apocalyptic world where there is ruins like this, and they're all wearing sandals, and they were living in this world after. That's where they were living. So that did happen, but how long ago was that? And the whole idea that Jesus is coming is through calculations of. Now, I'm not saying that please just don't. But all the calculations that he's coming at this time have to do with Bible prophecies, and it is to be 2,000 years. But what if we're not 2,000 years? What if we're only 1,000 years or 1,500 years? Or what if the time period is different? We know that this is a big clue as to the possibility of what we're seeing around us. What if that time period is different? What is the responsibility of us as Christians? Are we to just bury our heads in the sand like everybody else and just wait for Jesus to come and not do anything ourselves? Not stand up for ourselves, not stand up for our rights? Is that really what God wants us to do? And not make a home for ourselves and worry about what the government's going to do next? Or did he make his people to be independent, to be against those rulers and those people that try to enslave mankind? Are we supposed to actually start living as Christ told us to now? Or are we just waiting for the next shoe to fall? Because I believe that if it isn't this time, that means we have a chance to change things and turn things around. And that's why I continue to spread knowledge and news and talk to people about the things that I'm learning. Because if we are in the last days, we're in the last days. But no matter what days we are in, God always says, seek and you will find. And to live by, my word. Learn his word. Learn his word. What is the thing that he told us to live by? He lived us. The main thing that he said is the 10 Commandments. And that's simple. Everybody's got that, no matter what religion. You've got that written on your heart. And one thing we do know about all the different major religions of the world, the 7 of them, is they're all Abrahamic religions. They all stem from the same forefather. They all have the first 5 books of the Bible. They all have the 10 Commandments and the law of how to live a life that brings harmony to a community. And it's not hard. All of them have got that. You know what that tells me? All the major religions are the lost tribes, are the lost people of God. They just took it, and their books are just, from the 5 books, are just their progression of their people and the ones who ruled them. And that's what you're reading when it goes past that point, just like the Hebrew Bible. It's what happened to that culture after they left their and they split together. But they all come with the same promise, with the same information, with the same guidance. And if we as a whole, as a people, follow those laws that are written on our heart and start living closer to the land, start living closer to each other, and realize how immensely incredible we are as a civilization, we will have time and we will be creating this kind of a civilization. Because if you're not paying all of your money to a government that is robbing you blind, you will have free time. You will have probably health because you will have food that is fresh, and water that is clean, and air that is fresh. So are we just supposed to wait? Or are we to live the way he says we're supposed to? I'm not listening to what's going on around the world anymore. What that's going to happen is going to happen. There's nothing I can do to stop, but I can speak. And I can tell my truth. And I can tell what I feel inside of me. Oh, I hope that he is coming, because that's a relief to me to know that. What is it? Maybe we're supposed to be here. Maybe we're not quite the people we think we are. And we're supposed to carry on the human race. So if we're not in the time period of Jesus, that means we have to keep this race going for when he does come back. And that means we will turn around and change and be repentant. So I don't look at this material flippantly, like it's just an interest to me. I don't know about you guys, but this has been paradigm shifting for me. And I've been looking at it for almost a year, this Mudflood. And it is evolved, from where I started. And my concepts have been thrown around, and so much has bounced around looking at this stuff. When I go to make a new project, a video, I really do spend a lot of time in prayer. And I'm asking the Almighty to lead and guide me, that I am not misguiding someone else in the information that I'm telling. So that to me, this is a heavy responsibility. And I think for most people who are looking into these subjects, we feel the heaviness of misunderstanding the whole thing and confusing a whole bunch of people. And this project has been morbidly fascinating because it spells out a possible future from looking at the past, that if we don't stand up as a people, as one, as a human race, we're bound to repeat. So as I look at all of these destroyed civilization, I am constantly reminded of that. And but yet, I've been given this desire to look in every cranny that I can of this subject. You know, it's funny, out of all the subjects that I have studied in my lifetime, mythology, even though I was super, super fascinated, I never really got heavy in it to, think about the symbolism. So as I'm discovering a lot of this, and I'm starting to, I listened to a lot of other people that talked about symbolism and the Illuminati and all of that, but I was never called to really make that my own study. So I cannot say anything more than that. But a lot of the stuff that seems to be revealing to me now, why I'm looking at this, is a lot different from what I've heard in the past. Things just are so different than I think most of us understand, unless we put this perspective of the Mudfloods and the civilization Tartaria, and of recent history, and that our history has been fabricated. Because you just get to a point when the volume of ancient writings and paintings way outweigh the little bit of history that we've been told in our school books and on the internet. And of course, we're using their tools to discover this. So I always have to remember, everything that I'm looking at could be a psyop. But then I think, but the pictures and stuff like that, those are all real. Like those places that I'm showing, they're all real. This isn't made up just right now. Matter of fact, I was fascinated by a lot of this stuff for a very long time. I've always been interested in this type of architecture. So I've seen a lot of these old pictures. I just never put the connection. The spirit wasn't upon me to be able to see what was right in front of my face. And now that I'm able to look at things in a different light, I cannot believe that I could not see before. But truly, truly, that is a spiritual thing, to be able to see the little further than what's been presented to us. So I just wanted to have this little talk with you guys, tell you where my heart is when I look at this material. Like I said, I am fascinated by it, but it is a constant reminder that all of these past civilizations are telling us a story. And I believe maybe this is the reason why I have dyslexia, because I was never able to read those signs. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of this research does come from other people, other channels that have been deep researchers. So I will put links to some of the stuff that I'm looking at to show my gratefulness for the other hard researchers that I know a whole lot more than I do about this stuff. So forgive me if I make mistakes, but I am just presenting to you the way I see it. And here we go. Please stay tuned for the next video. It will be on the trees again and volcanoes. But I really have some interesting stuff to show you. Talk to you later. Live in love and light.